Thanks for joining us. You know, the attention of the world is really here on Israel and especially in Gaza, what's happening there with the hostage release, the prisoners release, and also what the Palestinian Authority is saying on their official media. Joining me now to talk about this is Itamar Marcus. He's the founder of the Palestinian Media Watch. Itamar, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
One of the messages that you sent out, one of articles from Palestinian Media Watch, was actually the Palestinian official media, the Palestinian Authority official media calling for genocide. Can you tell us about that?
Unfortunately, it's a fundamental of Palestinian Authority ideology for many, many years that the Jews are a fundamental source of evil throughout the world. And the only solution to this will be genocide. It sounds unusual because people like to believe that the Palestinians have a problem with Israel over territory. But when you listen to the leadership, and especially the religious leadership, on official Palestinian television, you find that the Jews are the source of evil in the world. They teach that Israel was only created because the Europeans in particular had to get rid of the Jews and solve their Jewish problem. So they sent Jews to what they call Palestine. But that's only a temporary solution. The ultimate solution is Allah will bring about destruction of all the Jews, and then the world will be a much better place. This is Palestinian Authority ideology.
Who is saying this, and what are some of the specific examples of what they're saying?
In 5 times in probably the last 6 months, we've heard the expression, count the Jews, Allah, count the Jews one by one, kill them one by one, don't leave even one. They're giving the sermon on television. Some of them are Sharia judges. Some of them are heads of the Sharia courts. These are very senior people in the religious establishment. And that's the problem, because there's one thing to call for killing Jews for secular reasons, which is bad enough. But then if you convince the people that it's wrong, they'll stop. When you are telling people that they have to kill Jews because this is what their God wants, then you can't argue with them, you can't discuss with them, you can't reason with them, because they believe that this is fulfillment of Islam for them. And that's why it's such a difficult situation Israel is in. That's why October 7th happened, and that's why the films showed the Palestinians from Gaza celebrating and so happy while they were murdering Jews, because they believed they were doing something for God.
How do you contrast that, Itamar, with the calls or the accusations by many around the world, many of these protests in streets and capitals all over? They're calling Israel, that Israel is committing genocide. How do you compare the two?
Well, it's like comparing the ocean with an apple. It's just ridiculous. There's nothing to compare. Israel is seeking out terrorists. Israel is trying to kill terrorists. The terrorists are hiding behind civilians. There has never been a war in history where the people who were attacked, the people who had justice on their side, were going after horrific terrorists like Hamas, or let's go to World War II, like the Nazis, and people accuse the people who are defending themselves of doing genocide. In World War II, the Nazis were attacking countries, and then the world fought the Nazis. German civilians were killed all the time because there were soldiers amongst them. Nobody said that the Allies had to send in water and food for the German civilians while Germany was being destroyed by the Allies. Absolutely not. But here they have a different standard for Israel. Israel is fighting against the most horrific terror organization who's done things that no terror organization has done, like October 7th. And yet Israel has to have the standard of worrying about the civilians while we're going after the terrorists.
One other announcement recently by the Palestinian Authority was that it was stopping its quote-unquote pay-to-slay policy, meaning that they were paying terrorists after they had committed terror attacks and even murder against Israelis. So that's what they announced. What did you find in your research about that announcement?
The Palestinian Authority will continue paying terrorists. They've made this clear. They're going to continue paying money to prisoners in jail. They're going to continue paying money to the families of what they call martyrs, which includes suicide bombers. They're just going to be doing it from a different bank account. They used to have a separate bank account, and we saw the budget. It was close to $350 million a year to reward terror. The donor countries, like the United States and the Europeans, were upset with this. For years, they've been asking them to change. Finally, the Palestinian Authority has agreed that they are closing that separate division of the Palestinian Authority budget, and they're creating a new social welfare division. But they've said specifically, the terrorists, that is, they don't call them terrorists, the prisoners and the families of the martyrs and the injured terrorists are all going to get money from this account. What's unclear if it's going to be the identical high salaries as before, or they're going to lower them a little bit under international pressure. The most important thing that has to be known, the Palestinians have stopped their pay for slay, not because they've decided it's wrong to kill Israelis or to kill Jews. No, they still insist it's right and they're allowed to do it. But they're doing it because of financial reasons. The United States, they would like to get American money. America can't fund them as long as they're paying this pay for slay program. Israel is deducting money, which is costing them 55 million shekels, or let's say about 15, 20 million shekels a month. So they're doing this for financial reasons, and that's the critical thing. The pay for slay was never the fundamental problem. Palestinian terror support is the fundamental problem, and pay for slay is just one symptom of Palestinian terror support. They glorify terrorists. They name schools after terrorists. They name squares after terrorists. Just listen to this. One of the terrorist murderers who was released from Israeli prison in the hostage, in exchange for hostages just a couple of weeks ago, was a murderer who killed 3 people, including a 9-month-old baby. And Mahmoud Abbas called him up to welcome him home, and it was filmed. So there is absolutely no change in the PA attitude toward killing Jews. They want it. They support it. They're just going to have to do it in a different way.
So just to be clear, they're taking the money for these terrorists, it's just putting it into another account and paying them that way.
Exactly. And this account's going to also have social welfare benefits for people who are receiving welfare. And that way they're going to be able to claim to the international community it's not actually terror rewards, but it's social welfare. But we know exactly what it is. And Palestinian Media Watch, we're going to be following them closely to see exactly how much money they're giving to each terrorist, if it's the same high terror rewards as before. Let me just point out that terrorists in prison can receive, if they're in jail long enough, can receive 12,000 shekel a month, let's say over $3,000 a month, $3,500 a month, whereas social welfare benefits, the maximum they can get is 600 shekel a month, let's say $200, less than $200 a month. So you're talking about $3,000 a month compared to $200 a month. So social welfare benefits are almost nothing. Salaries to terrorists are up in the sky. They're the highest salaries in the Palestinian Authority. We'll know very soon if this is just another scam that the Palestinian Authority is doing just to trick the international community and just to get money from the United States.
Yeah. For those that may not know it, what is pay to slay?
Pay to slay is that under Palestinian Authority law, every terrorist who, and I say terrorist, every terrorist who's arrested and goes to jail in Israel starts getting a salary right away. From the first day they're arrested, they start at 1,400 shekel a month, and then the longer they're in jail, the salary keeps going up, eventually getting as high as 12,000 shekels a month. Now, this is been called pay for slay because literally that's what it is. We're talking about people. Take, for example, Abdallah Barghouti. He built bombs for Hamas. His bombs killed 67 Israelis. He has already received over $300,000 from the Palestinian Authority in salary rewards for going to jail. Now, if someone's a suicide bomber, they can't receive the money, so the family receives the money. The family receives 1,400 shekel every month for life. So if he has a young child and he's a terrorist, that child will be receiving for 70 years 1,400 shekel. And I might point out that this would absolutely not be possible without Western funding. The Western governments initially were literally paying for this directly because they were putting the money straight into the Palestinian Authority account. Subsequently, they said, okay, you know what? We're not going to pay for this directly. We're going to pay for the schools. We're going to pay for buildings. We're going to pay for sewage. And that will leave the Palestinian Authority with money to take care of their terrorists. So it's an outrage. Money is fungible. And the West should be absolutely embarrassed and shamed for doing this unethical behavior of funding a Palestinian Authority that supports terror.
As part of the hostage release and ceasefire, there's been hundreds of Palestinian prisoners that have been released. You've documented how much money they actually have received over time. What are those figures?
So it's just crazy. They've received, the ones who are just getting out of this deal, which is a little over 700, they've received over $500 million shekel, 316 of them are leaving prison as millionaires. Over $1 million shekel. One of them actually over 2 million shekel because they've been in prison long enough and accumulated. Altogether, in dollars, it comes to about $140 million being given out just to these 700 terrorist prisoners. And of course, this makes these people, they go into their cities, they go into their villages, and everybody sees how wealthy they are. They build fancy homes, they drive around in fancy cars. They say, wow, look at that person, look how wealthy. I mean, these salaries are so high. They're like 4 times the average Palestinian salary. By the way, the terrorists who get out of jail continue, under Palestinian law, continue to get the same high salary. So what happens is they become seen, and this is also one of the great terror motivators. People see these wealthy people roaming around. They can buy anything they want. They can do whatever they want. And everyone says, and children look at them and teenagers say, wow, I want to be like them. All I have to do is kill an Israeli, go to jail, get out in a prisoner release. So this whole system is an absolute terror incentivizer. And that's why it has to be stopped. And that's also why the Palestinian Authority hasn't stopped it, because they are very much interested in incentivizing terror.
Yeah. Can you talk about that, too, in terms of a millionaire? We're talking about millionaire in shekels, not dollars, correct?
Correct. These are millionaire shekels. They've received up to, I think, $650,000, which is an enormous amount of money they're leaving jail with. And again, by Palestinian Authority terms, when you realize that the average salary in the Palestinian Authority is in the area of $1,000 a month, it's $12,000 a year. You're talking about leaving with $600,000. That goes a tremendous distance. And like I say, they are the wealthiest people in Palestinian society.
Yeah. You've also written about the number of Gazans that actually would like to emigrate from the Gaza Strip. How many would actually want to leave? And has that number increased since the war began?
So this is something that's so important, especially following President Trump's suggestion or plan to have the Gazans removed and settled someplace else. Why is this so important? Before the war, polls found that 44% of Palestinian youth aged 18 to 28 wanted to leave. And this is when things were good. A full 31% of the population wanted to leave. And this is when things were good. Now that the 70% of the buildings in Gaza are not livable, the entire infrastructure, electricity, water, you name it, streets, cars, are all gone. What 18-year-old who wants to start his life, who wants to get married, who wants to get a job and get a profession, who's going to want to live there now? While the world rebuilds over 10 years, they want to live in a tent for 10 years now and push off starting a family, push off starting a life? No, they don't. And that's why I say those numbers from 44% before the war, they've got to be double. They've got to be close to 90%, with only a hardcore few who want to remain for I don't even know why. So that Trump's plan comes out, it's not a transfer plan, it's a salvation plan, saving these people, giving them a life, giving them a future. Let them go to Muslim countries where they want to go. Many of them, the majority of them, wanted to go to Turkey. Let them all go to Turkey and have a good life in Turkey instead of suffering for 10 years. The Palestinian Authority is against this plan because the Palestinian Authority does not care about their people one iota. They only use their people as political pawns, as they do with UNRWA, keeping them in refugee camps. They don't care about the people. They just want them to suffer, which, of course, makes more terrorists. So Trump's plan is a very humanitarian plan. It's not a transfer plan.
Also, getting a lot of opposition from Egypt and Jordan, who seem to be unwilling to take any of these refugees. Egypt now seems to be wanting to start to send, temporary housing while Gaza is rebuilt. What would be the reason why Egypt and Jordan in particular don't want to see some of these Palestinian refugees?
Well, each one has their own reason. Jordan has a very large majority Palestinian population. And many of them see the whole family, the Hussein family, King Abdullah, as outsiders because they came originally from the area of Saudi Arabia and ruling over them. So he's afraid of having, let's say, so many or hundreds of thousands or a million Gazans come in, because that'll strengthen the Palestinian population and the opposition to him. And he doesn't want to have trouble. So that's his point. Egypt, on the other hand, it's really more a political issue. The Palestinians, for the Arab world and for countries like Egypt, were a thorn in Israel's side. They're the ones who are the forefront of terror against Israel, the forefront of fighting against Israel. The Egyptian population in polls is incredibly anti-Semitic. We've had a peace treaty, but it hasn't impacted on opinions in Egypt at all. So for Egypt, having the Gazans there thrust into Israel, filled with Palestinians, for them, that's another knife that's that's thorns in the side of Israel that'll keep giving us trouble, and they would like to see us miserable.
Yeah. In what way, and the hostage releases week by week have been a propaganda show for Hamas. In what way, why are they doing this? First of all, Itamar, and how does this play in Palestinian society?
So Hamas is putting on this show because there was a perception amongst Gazans and amongst Palestinians in Judea and Samaria as well that Hamas was ruined. Hamas was finished. You look at Gaza and you see 70% ruin, and all the terrorists were hiding under the ground. There was no visibility to them. So everybody thought that the terrorist power were gone. So for this is a power show. They want to tell the Arabs all over the world, their allies all over the world, they want to show specifically in Judea and Samaria where they're very popular. They want them to understand, guess what? Look at us. We still have the rifles. We still have the guns. We still control all the streets in Gaza. There is no counterforce to Hamas in Gaza. And that's what this is all about. They don't care that the rest of the world is horrified by this. This is really an internal message to their own people. Hamas rules and will continue ruling.
We talk about pay to slay and about the genocide sermons by official Palestinian Authority imams. What would you say to the U.S. and other Western countries? What policy should they employ?
I think the policy is really so simple. There is no other state or semi-state government around the world that so actively supports terror and calls for genocide of Jews, that gets foreign funding, that is not designated as a terror organization. The Palestinian Authority should be designated today as a terror organization, should be sanctioned as a terror organization, and then the world should give the Palestinian Authority time to prove that they're not a terror organization. That means not just stopping to change the sermons, not having the sermons not call for genocide. It would mean changing the names of all the schools that glorify murderers, changing all of those things that promote terror within Palestinian society, changing the messages, for example, putting Israel on the map. Israel doesn't appear on any maps in the Palestinian Authority. The standard Palestinian map has all of Israel with the Palestinian flag on it. This is throughout the Palestinian school system. So they should, first of all, be designated as a terror organization, and then the world should give them a list of things that they have to do to prove that they're not a terror organization. And until that happens, treat them like a terror organization, sanction them, and don't allow them to visit your country, and don't give them a penny.
Do you see any differences right now between the Trump administration and the Biden administration dealing with the Palestinian Authority?
Yes, there are tremendous differences. The Palestinian Authority, with the Palestinian Authority. Yes, the Trump administration is clearly going to put demands on the Palestinian Authority. I've mentioned some of them now. I don't know to what extent these specific demands, but clearly the Trump administration understands that the Palestinian Authority has been a terror supporting organization. There's no doubt that the Palestinian Authority chose now to cancel the pay-for-slave program, even if it's only a cosmetic change. They chose now because of the Trump administration, because they know that Donald Trump is not going to put up with this kind of a thing. So that's the big difference with the Democratic administration that was in and previous ones. They could tell the Palestinians what to do, and the Palestinian Authority would say, yes, we'll try, and they would stop. I'll never forget years ago when I presented material to the Obama administration on Palestinian Authority, what they called incitement, terrible hatred, similar to the things I've been describing today. And the Obama administration, instead of criticizing the Palestinian Authority, actually once congratulated them for trying to do what they could to stop the incitement, and they had to do more, which was, of course, a ridiculous statement. They weren't trying to stop it. They were the source of the incitement. They were the source of the hatred. They're the source of all of these problems. And I think the Trump administration understands Palestinian Authority is not a victim of incitement. They are the ones who are directing it, leading it, and they will have to change if they want to be in good terms with the Trump administration.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Itamar?
Final thought is that Israel is at a very, very difficult crossroads now with the hostage situation. We still have in the area of 70 hostages there. We have a Hamas organization that wants to survive. Israel has to destroy Hamas. We've seen what they can do. We've seen what they want. On the other hand, we see that they still control Gaza. So if we go back to fighting, they will probably kill all the remaining hostages. If we don't go back to fighting, then they remain in power. And tomorrow they will be starting to plan the next October 7th. So Israel has no easy, good decisions. We have bad decisions to make, and we have worse decisions to make. And that's why it's such a difficult situation for us right now. And we just hope and pray that the leadership will make the best decisions for the country.
Yeah, certainly a time to be hoping and praying for the situation. Itamar Marcus, founder of the Palestinian Media Watch, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Chris.